Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction, Anthony, and thank you all for being here today. I think this conversation is very important, especially now. As you know, maybe you guys don't know this, but I'm a chronically online Gen Zer, and I've grown up on social media my entire life. So I understand that there's a lot of pressure, especially if this is your job or a part of your job, like the amazing panelists we will be talking to today. Healing is very important and taking care of yourself because as Latinos, we are taught from a very young age to hustle and hustle, but it's very hard to work when you're not taking care of your inner self, and it also helps you take better care of the people around you. So I'm very excited for today. I would love to welcome my panelists, and please give them a warm welcome. All right, so to start off, I do want the audience to get to know you guys. Please, we can start with Jason. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the amazing work that you do.
Amazing. No pressure to be first. Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Rosario. I roll my R's on purpose. I am from the native New Yorker, family from the Dominican Republic, native New Yorker from the Bronx. But what do? I do great hugs. I do great dinner parties. But if you're asking what I do and how I make a living, I am a global marketing executive, former global chief impact officer at BBDO, and yeah, overall human being.
I love that. And I appreciate that you also shared not just what you do for work, but what you do with your life that makes you happy. Sarai? Gotta turn it on, yeah.
Hello, hi, I'm Sarai, and I am a Dominican photographer and set designer from Queens. And my work creates spaces for self-discovery and celebration, both like in front of the camera and in the environments that I do build. And I'm also the founder of The Junk Edit, which is a community journaling workshop that helps people let go of perfectionism, play, and like reconnect with their creativity.
Thank you. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Awesome. We can go on to Jorge.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jorge Alvarez. I'm also going to roll my R's. Thank you for that reminder, because I tend to say Jorge Alvarez in a lot of my workspaces, and we're not about that this weekend and this next week. But really, really grateful to be here. Something that I do that's not related to my work, because I'm also going to take that. I love that. I love to be outside. I love hiking. I love animals. If you go on a hike with me, better believe I will catch some animal and then explain the animal to you like Steve Irwin, but Latino. Anyway, I'm a content creator, social impact strategist, mental health advocate. So I come at this work from a bit of a different angle than what a lot of you might be, or the angle that you all might be coming at this work from. I am someone who really appreciates showing up online in a way that is sharing my own lived experiences, which we'll get into a little bit more later. And I've had the chance to also work on and direct my own mental health video project centering Latino parents and their children, and parents of color and their children as well, which we'll all get into, but really excited to be here.
Awesome. Jaisa. Thank you, Jorge.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jaisa Jimenez. I'm a poet, in love with poetry since I was 6 years old. I produce poetry shows. Normally, I start as a writer. I've been in New York for 5 years and 34 years in Dominican Republic nonstop. I came from a hood, the name is Los Minas, San Lorenzo de los Negros Minas. A room place full of black people, and it's still full of black people. And I believe in liberation. I deeply believe in liberation, and I deeply believe in spirituality, and I deeply believe in ancestrality. So I honor poetry, ancestrality, spirituality in my work.
Amazing. Thank you, Jaisa, for sharing. All right, so we are going to get into our conversation, but I do want to say to the audience, please pay close attention because you can actually ask our amazing panelists some questions at the end for a Q&A. So now that we're here talking about our ancestors, we also know that there's a lot of generational trauma that comes in and a lot of different things that we face within the Latina community, especially as Black and brown people. I would like to ask you guys, when was that moment that mental health became a part of your mission, whether in work or also in your personal life? Jason, we can start with you.
Man, no pressure. Mental health and when did it become an important part of my life? I can't pinpoint a specific moment, but I would say that if I took you back to a time in my life, it would probably be in my 20s. I'm a young father. My daughter's now, I won't say that because then you'll know how old I am, but young father, going through at the time a traumatic breakup, but at the same time experiencing success in my career, and having to navigate some of those changes without really a model for guidance, around how to be, what to do, how to behave. And so confronting all of that, just really sort of brought me back to a moment of, really I have to start to define for myself what it means to be a man, what kind of person I want to be. And so that's kind of when I started to lean into therapy as a modality. And then also when I started to embark on this journey of masculinity and manhood, you quickly realize that you can't do that work without also unpacking mental health, right? So for men, for example, a lot of the things that we're taught, that is manhood and masculinity, so being stoic and being repressive of your feelings, can also be signals of depression and anxiety. And so you can't unpack that work without also doing a lot of deep work and asking yourself real questions. And so that's when it started. And so, when you fast forward even today, mental health and being an advocate for mental health and wellness isn't just part of my work, right? It's how I live my life, and it's a really important part of how I live.
Thank you so much for sharing. Sarai?
I would say that for me, it happened very just organically. Through photography, especially, I help people see different sides of themselves. So I'm learning a lot about how people are perceiving themselves, and just kind of encouraging them to get out of their head. And I realized that my work for me personally was also a way for me to get out of my head and just create a different world. So I will say a lot of my work is rooted in the escapism, just in a way to get out of everything that I'm dealing with. And then also on top of that, I had a moment where my body literally demanded that I stop and take a break and think about just really slowing down. So for me, it just happened organically. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm glad that art has been an outlet for you. All right, Jorge?
Yeah, no, and everyone here knows, honestly, in some ways better than I do, how powerful art is of an outlet. So I'm glad that you do have that and that you're on this panel. Your voice needs to be here, and I'm glad you're here. If you ask me today, at what point did mental health become part of my work? I would instantly tell you that mental health is the work. It's everything that I do, everything from the content I create to the advocacy I do, whether I'm specifically talking about mental health or not, in my mind always connects and ladders back to how are we making mental health conversations like this platformed in spaces that they're usually not, right? How are we centering the communities that most need to have these conversations around mental health? But for me, it was honestly the beginning of college. I really struggled with my mental health, depression, anxiety, but I didn't know it at the time because growing up Latino, right, we don't talk about being depressed or anxious. And I honestly didn't have the language at the time, so it wasn't until I reached my own crisis point and eventually was able to get help my first year of college, where I went to therapy as well, and through that learned, oh wow, so these feelings of stress and not having the ability to retain anything that I'm studying, or just feeling really tired, that's actually depression, that's actually anxiety. And that made me realize, oh my God, how many people around me also have no idea that they're struggling right now. They might know they're not doing their best, but they don't know that they're struggling in the way that I was struggling. And so that was one of the moments. I'd say another moment really briefly was when the pandemic happened, at that point I'd actually been doing a lot of like on-campus organizing, hosting events, all in the name of promoting mental health. And this was pre-pandemic, so like people are starting to talk about it. Still, there's a lot of progress to be made, but before the pandemic, even less. And when I lost that community, I remember showing up online because at the time there was all this like study with me and like stay up for like 8 hours and let's do work together online for like 4 hours straight and like no breaks, and there was this green smoothie content, and I was like, I can't think about that if I'm stressing about like my mom not being able to pay her bills, right? Like, so I wanted to talk about those aspects, and I was able to share what I was learning in therapy with my platform and community online, and a lot of Latinos and people of color really were like, oh my gosh, I've never thought about it in this way. So
Thank you for that representation, Jais.
thank you.
Okay, you remember the movie Narnia?
Yes.
You remember the scene when the two sides are gonna in the little silence? That was my grandma's house, all the time. So to deal with this specific image, this specific picture, when I think about it as a Narnia theme, it's less complicated for me. And my other compañeras y compañeros right now talk about how their work translate to mental health possibilities to everybody. But I want to talk about the consume or art to create this path of mental health. I say totally mainstream, basic example, but is the sample I have. And someone create this image. It make me feel less anxious about this past, this specific past. This is why I encourage everyone to take this not just as a creation of art, because creation is, I think, is a right for everyone, create, but the consumption, the putting yourself in front of art and recognize the power of art to do something new. And it's something I really appreciate, because in the Dominican Republic, I was not able to make a long walk with shorts and my headphones without being scared to be robbed. Here, I can do that. And I consume the music I need, and I consume the poetry I need during this time. In my work, poetry, okay, art doesn't substitute therapy. I have to be like totally putting a point, poner un punto. Because therapy, everybody, we can't avoid human connection. We can't avoid that. But poetry and arts always make therapy more logical, weirdly, because art works in other spaces, not logical spaces normally, more logical, more intentional, and more fun, in fact, for me. In poetry, and the last thing I want to say about this specific topic is, one thing is create art, and another thing is publish art. Publish art. Like, create art, have a function on you. I want to say something. I'm a criminal in my art, like, for real. In my imagination, whatever I want. What I share with others, I'm a curator of that. So I invite everyone to consume art, create art, and understand when this art is just for you or for a couple of people, because already the art make the work on you. And then what you want to share, how you want to share with the community. So that's my answer.
Can I just add to that really quickly?
What's
I
up?
just want to add something to that.
No, please.
So I think the common theme across all of us is creativity has been a form of healing, right? And a form of, a vehicle for survival. And I think that there is an important point to be made, and that is, when you are experiencing mental health challenges, when you are in survival mode, you are here, right? You don't have the capacity to think outside of that and think creatively. And so why do we think creativity is so important is because it puts you in a state of play, right? It puts you in a state of freedom where you can imagine possibilities and create. And I think that's why it's such a powerful, beyond art form, it's a medicine. And so I invite everybody to find ways in your own right. You don't have to be a creative in terms of fine arts, but in your own right, find a way to create something and bring something to life as a way to take you out of your own head.
Thank you. And I would like to, with what you guys said, I do think that art is a lot more accessible, especially to BIPOC communities, as a way of processing emotions and traumas, versus when it comes to mental health accessibility and healthcare accessibility, not all of our communities have that same access. So art is incredibly important. And if we take it back to history and the music that we create, cumbia, mapale, bomba, salsa, everything is just, it was a way for our ancestors and our people to talk about the traumas that they experienced. And I think it's very important that as newer generations, we're able to combine both that medicine, but then the also more holistic approach that comes more natural to us, which is art. Thank you. With that said, we're going to talk about the pressure to perform. And in a world where so many artists, organizers, and business owners feel like they must become content creators as a means of survival, it can definitely be overwhelming. So Jorge, I want to ask you directly a question. As someone that intentionally uses their platform consistently talk about important issues ranging from therapy to local politics, how do you personally navigate the pressure to perform online? And also making sure that your well-being isn't always at the expense of an algorithm?
No, I really appreciate this question because when I think back to my transitioning to showing up online myself and sharing my advocacy and voice through TikTok, Instagram, etc., honestly, at the beginning, I was coming in or showing up from a place of wanting to just share my own story, right? Like I would literally be in a therapy session and then I'd be like, oh my gosh, I need to share this with people. And I would talk about what I learned. And then as I grew my platform, as I grew my community, I felt that pressure. I felt this pressure to keep showing up, right? To keep delivering, to keep improving in content. And then it became, oh, I'm just gonna film a video of me yapping, to like, wait, I wanna make videos that really tell a story without all the words sometimes, right? Like I started to get really excited about video as a mechanism for creativity. And I think what had happened was that was really inspired by, it was pushed by the algorithm for me to feel like I had to grow at a pace that wasn't sustainable for me. And when I say grow, I don't mean numbers. I mean like my own creative capabilities, my own skill sets. And so I did burn out. I'm in front of all of you right now, but I'm still struggling with the symptoms of burnout 3 years ago. I think sometimes we have this misconception that burnout is just an experience at one moment, and then you get through it and no, it's something that I experienced, and now there's all these internalized beliefs from that period of my life that I'm still struggling with when it comes to how I show up online. I'll post a video and there's these voices and thoughts that were formed during that period of burnout where I just struggled so much to show up. So I just wanted to name that. And I navigate this now by reminding myself these platforms, at the end of the day, owned mostly by billionaires, are just tools, right? They're just tools for us to share our art. They are not definitive of our art, of our skill sets. It's a place for us to share it, just like any building with a space to have an exhibit is a space to share said art. And so for me, I think what helps and what I want to remind everyone is, your platform, you sharing whatever art it is that you're sharing or using your voice online, that is not how that performs is not indicative of you as a creative, but rather it is again, just a space for you to share that art and speak to folks that might resonate. And for me, I think reminding myself that it's a tool is what I ground myself in, and trying to distinguish my own identity, right? And what are my actual creative goals outside beyond, what my counterparts, what my colleagues, what other artists, creatives, advocates are doing to show up online. And I think that's what's allowed me to create things that I care about, right? If, I want to talk about health disparities, right, which something I spoke about recently, I'll do that. If I want to talk about what's happening in Gaza, I can do that. If I want to talk about, my own experiences struggling with my mental health, I can do that. And so, again, just thinking about social media as a tool. Second, I'll just quickly say, or third, I don't know what number I'm on, but honestly, I think reminding myself that building community and investing in my relationships outside of my platform is so important, right? And I'll share more on that later, but I just wanted to plant that seed.
Thank you, Jorge. Also, I really appreciate you talking about community because I think we all know you could have 10,000 followers, but if they don't care about the things that you care about, or if they're not showing up for you, or you're not showing up for them, is that really community at the end of the day? Thank you. So Jason, a lot of your work, especially with The Lives of Men, which is an incredible show you guys should check out, is about creating space for men to talk and process their feelings, which is so important because culturally and professionally, these types of conversations weren't always encouraged with men. Through your work and own experience, what have you learned about the pressure men put on themselves, and what are your thoughts on how to navigate that?
Great question. I would say that, and I hope no one's offended by what I'm about to say, but I would say that what I've learned is that men are the most sensitive species on the planet. And that's not a negative thing. It's not a negative thing. It's rooted in the fact that, unfortunately, we're taught to value attributes like being a protector and being a provider over things like emotional intelligence and vulnerability. And unfortunately, that puts us in a bit of a box. It puts us in a place where we are unable to express the fullest dimension of who we are as complex, beautifully complex, nuanced human beings. So that's the first thing I learned, is that unfortunately that is in large part, to Jorge's point, in large part due to social media and sort of what we take in. But my work specifically is not about telling men how to be men. It really is about creating spaces for men to be the fullest expression of who we are. And so to lean into power and to lean into vulnerability, and it's okay to want to be a pillar of strength in your community and your family, but it's also okay for you to be carried by those same people when you need it. And so I think it's really important that men sort of are given spaces and develop the language and the mindset to be the fullest expression of who we are, and that is human beings first and foremost. And then I want to just say something really quickly about social media. I mean, social media, as someone who works in the space, social media has been sold to us as a tool for connection. And in fact, it's done the opposite. It's actually brought us more apart. And so I think, when we talk about burnout, I think we're all burnt out, in a world where it's easy to, kids aren't playing outside anymore. It's easy to swipe left and right. And unfortunately, in these dating apps, unfortunately, people forget that there's a whole ass human being on the other side that requires that you develop the basic social skills to connect. And I think, to me, that is sort of why we're all burnt out, and we don't realize why that is. And so, to me, at the core of it all is really to, first, for me, as a tool for survival, is I have to define what connection is. What is real connection? And it's not online. Online, social media, all that stuff is not real. And so encourage everybody to really take a moment to find community IRL, as the young kids say.
Thank you so much, Jason. I also would like to say that there was like a quote, or there's a quote about how men don't receive flowers till the day that they die. And it was something that touched me very deeply, because I realized that while we're always focused on how machismo affects women, the queer community, which I'm a part of, we sometimes fail to forget that the patriarchy has also failed our men. And I think it's very important for us to also hold space for you guys to talk about those feelings.
Listen, I know we have limited time here, but we can talk about that all day.
I love that. Thank you. But to piggyback off the burnout, actually, we're going to discuss boundaries and how that helps prevent burnout. Jaisa, what are some grounding tactics that you use or recommend to people? Ways that people can stay rooted in what actually matters and create a sense of resilience to the ways the world can drain you?
Well, I am I'm a true believer of herbalism. I'm a true believer of the situation we say you love nature is when you are in the United States, people think immediately, oh, another hippie, new age, she's gonna bring some crystals. Crystal kills people, so I'm not into crystals. So I don't recommend consumption. In fact, I recommend interaction, not just with people, with your blessings and what you got. Ground yourself is something I can't even give an advice about because it don't always works. You have to be me in connection with my body in the day. The body, it's amazing. Your body is amazing. Like I almost died 2 years ago, and now I'm recovered with medical support, herbalism, prayers, a community, love, and a lot of beautiful things in life that can help you. I recommend leave. I recommend that. And if it doesn't work, go with your friend, someone who can like avoid you to commit something horrible, and another person to encourage you to make something. And they're gonna be the balance, and you're gonna make something stupid and gonna feel alive and safe. Connection, and go to the nature for real. Someone knows mycelium? Mycelium? It's
mushrooms.
Huh?
Mycelium?
Mushrooms,
Mushrooms.
mycelium.
Yeah, yeah.
Mycelio. Just be mycelio. Literally. I don't know how I can explain it because it don't always work, but yes, be mycelio. Be that shit. Yes, I say a lot of bad words. I'm sorry. I'm not a good like.
Earmuffs.
Because
No,
I'm from Dominican Republic and I'm controlling myself a lot.
No,
Right?
no, me encanta. Honestly, I think, well, first of all, a round of applause for sharing. I think we all agree here. We're so glad you're here alive and living your life and showing us your art with everything that you do because it's truly a blessing. And honestly, we're Latinos. We have fincas back home. We have trees. This is not natural to us, especially in a city like New York where everything, I mean, in the summer it's nice, but in the wintertime it's dark. You get that seasonal depression. So I appreciate you bringing us back to our actual roots and our fundamentals as human beings. With that said, Sarai, you actually talked about, with a beautiful post, it was a self-portrait project called Bedrot, and it was a very vulnerable project that received a lot of love online, but also it created confusing online interactions. What was that like for you as an artist to put yourself out there and that vulnerability? And also, what advice would you give to the audience about interacting with creatives and their work online?
Yeah, Bedrot. If you go on my page, you can find that. I posted that like at the beginning of the year. What it was really was like a set design of what my room looked like when I was going through it. You know, the pile of clothes starts building up, so it was basically like everything scattered and what I was going through. There was so many things like happening like around me. So overall, it was a very vulnerable piece of work. And I think that sharing anything on Instagram or like any other platform is super vulnerable. Like, I don't know about you, but like I have mad things in the vault that I'm just like, I don't know if I should put that out. Because you really have to like push yourself to publish your work, like you said. So sharing something that was very personal, I felt like I was ready to do that, but I wasn't aware that when I posted it, like it would bring me back to the place where I was when I first made it. because I feel like people started commenting like that they were going through that too. I thought it would be helpful. When I posted it, I did it with the intention of other people who were going through it to like know that, yeah, we all going through it kind of thing. Yeah. But in doing that, I was like, maybe I'm still going through it. I don't know, with the comments that I was getting. And on the other side, I did make work that was really beautiful. So people were like, oh, I love this. Oh, so beautiful. And I'm like, wait, my trauma is beautiful to you? But it was like I put that out there for people to engage with. As an artist, you put your work out there, and the commentary that comes, you can't really control that. And though they were compliments, it did bring me to like a weird place of like, wait, maybe I wasn't ready to share my work. So I would advise that anyone who is sharing very vulnerable work to like really take a moment and ask why you're sharing it. Like you said, like you put your feelings out there, and it's to help you connect, or like what you said earlier, like people are engaging with your work without realizing that there's a person behind it. And sometimes people don't read the caption. So everyone's like, wow, this is so fun. And I'm like, depression is not fun. You didn't read the caption. So I would, yes, as an artist, advise that you take some time, really think about why you're putting your work out there, why you're sharing that, and if you are ready to do that. And for people who are engaging with the work, like really just taking a moment to like remember that there's someone behind there, and it probably took a while for them to post it and share it with people because it is a vulnerable act, period. Yeah.
Thank you. I feel like a lot of the times we consume so much online, and sometimes, I know not us in this room, but some people forget to have empathy and to move through the world with empathy and just understand that, you know, that person has a different experience than you, and you're only seeing a glimpse of their art, you're only seeing a glimpse of their life. So yes, let's be more mindful of that as well. So Jason, you've worked at all sorts of levels, from with your own agency or as a Chief Impact and Inclusion Officer at BBD Worldwide. Along the way, what have you learned, all the signs people should look out for to recognize when they're experiencing burnout?
So in full transparency, we of course prepared for this panel beforehand. And so we got the questions and you sent them, and originally I had a really well thought out, beautiful language answer to the question, but I think in this moment, just based on what I'm hearing and sort of what I'm feeling Spirit called me to share is the fact that, to acknowledge where we are in the world right now. It's heavy, to say the least. And a lot of us are unplugging from social media, opting out from the news, and myself included. And so I think, and I was journaling about this. For me, my assignment right now, my focus is to feel, heal, and find my assignment. And that is all of our assignment right now, is feel whatever it is that you have to feel, process that, but then find what it is that you are uniquely positioned to do and to bring about in the world, and then do that. Because it's easy to get burned out. It's easy to kind of get caught up in everything that's happening, what we have, what we don't have, what's the next thing that needs to be done tomorrow. But I think really just be present in where you are in this moment, and then find what it is, what is the thing that needs to be done in that moment, and then do that. So I'm not sure if that answers the question, but that's what I was called to share.
Thank you.
And I just want to...
Yeah,
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes to that. Cheers to that. But I wanted to also add, the other day, last week actually, I hosted a mental health workshop for creators. And to your point, there was about 20, 30 of them in the room. And all of them, when asked, hey, like if you were a battery, what's your energy at? Like they were all like 40%, right? And I'm telling you, everyone. There was no one, actually no, there was one person who was like, I'm 85 because I just left the gym. And I was like, great, I should do that. But like the point is, everyone, right, whether you're showing up online or whether, like you said, you're focused on the fine arts, what I'm hearing and I'm continuing to hear is like we're all operating from like less than 50. That's not a surprise because of everything that's going on in the world. So yeah, I just want to second and plus one what was just shared.
No, thank you for sharing that. And I mean, it's very hard right now to feel safe, especially if you're a person of color. And it's really hard also to balance that while you're worried about the other people in the other communities, whether here or abroad, who are experiencing terrible things. So, with that said, how can we create those safe spaces amongst each other and in community? So, Jorge, you intentionally look to create these sorts of spaces, as you were just talking about, for LGBTQ plus youth and Gen Zers. How can we all show up better for the communities during these challenging times?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm curious at a show of hands, and I can barely see the hands in the back, but I got you. The light's really bright. But who here considers themselves an artist or creative of some sort, of anything? Okay, right, so a huge chunk of the room, as expected. But I ask that because I think right now, I'm gonna answer this question a little differently. I think right now what's most important is that all of you think about how you're spotlighting the stories that really matter most, and how you all through your mediums are controlling and painting the narrative that you think, based off of your own lived experience, needs to be spotlit and put into like on the main stage most. Because I think what we're experiencing right now is a lot of folks not feeling heard, not feeling seen, right? Like, and also feeling we're being directly attacked. Our communities, Latinos, queer folks, we're being directly attacked by this government, by the country. And I think it's really important to think about one of the biggest ways to combat that is thinking about how we're controlling the narrative through art, right? And how we're sharing stories that celebrate our culture, that we're sharing stories that encourage us to be our full selves, and capturing those experiences that are so often trying to be erased. So I think that's what's really important for all of us as creatives, to just embrace that in your process. And then of course, yes, obviously building community. Also by a show of hands, how many of you, like when you think of a friend and then you want to text them, but then you're like, oh, like, you know, I just don't want to be bothered right now. Who's experienced that? Okay. And now how many of you are like, oh, I'm going to text this person, and then you forget? Leave them on red, don't send that voice memo, don't listen to that voice memo. All my friends are guilty of that for me because I send too many memos. But my point is, you know, I think it's really important that we also recognize, like, hey, like what we need right now is to just send those check-ins, right? Like maybe my call to action for all of you is to reach out to that person in your life right after this panel and say, like, hey, just thinking of you, right? It could be the smallest little text, but that really can go a long way. So I think just making it a practice and continuing to remind yourself that no matter how loud the world gets, just try to check in on your people. And I just want to leave that all with you today.
Thank you so much. So honestly, I think that we've all seen on social media how there's like the cost of community is inconvenience, which is hard because, as we've all talked about mental health for the entire conversation, it's very difficult while you're also struggling to maybe check in on a friend or show up. But it truly does make a difference, and it matters, and you honestly feel so much better afterwards because maybe waking up a little early made a huge difference in your friend's life. So, Jaisa, as someone that has performed poetry for protection with Blindada, you have a unique perspective of creating spaces in real life for people. What has Blindada taught you about creating safe spaces in that real world, and how poetry and performance plays a role in that?
First, one thing I recognize about the tools you're using, another tool on me, if works for anybody here. I'm gonna be 39 this month. So yes, it's a little applause to my skincare. Yes, applause. And bone broth, but and exercise. Okay. You know, I need to be called by phone. I don't know if I need to answer a lot of message, because I'm not normally into this because I'm from another age. I don't born with internet. So I recommend that too. Like find what is your best way, because I take calls all the time from my friends and without problem. It's 3 seconds for me. Like, hey, how are you? And I like it. and I think it's better. I don't have the. Normally, I don't like to answer a lot of messages. It's not for me, but there's another thing. So, blindada, protection points, poemas de protección. This starts exactly when I start to feel really weak about deal with fibroids. You know, a lot of people here, I know, a lot of people with uterus know what's happening right now. A lot of us are dealing with fibroids, no matter how healthy you think you are. So in this moment, blindada was like, okay, I don't have the power. I don't have the fuerza. I was weak. What I need. And this, I remember the first show of blindada, how much I was bleeding. And I remember how incredible, that was a preparation for me. And the whole community was there. And protection poems came because of every one of those poems protect me in a specific way, in a specific time. So I really recognize in the creation, in the path of creation, a path to protect ourselves, not just from the outside. It's to understand how valuable, amazing, unbelievable, brilliant every human being is. And how this word doesn't translate this to every person. Doesn't, like, we can't translate how amazing is every human being. This is why the amount of deaths in Gaza right now make me feel so empty. And this is another thing, like blindada make me feel great about say I'm empty. This side of me is empty. It doesn't be like no se llena, it's not easy, it's a lot of people, it's a project, it's complicated. Not complicated because this word is not correct in this case. I'm a little loose in the answer, but I have to say to everyone, when you find something that liberates you, dialogue with that thing all the time. I don't know what is happening, but we are not just this experience. We are a lot of things. So let's access to ourselves. And weirdly, access to ourselves is the best way to access to the community. I don't know if we have the time, like later, to talk. Everybody can send me a message. I'm gonna answer late, really late. But yes, access to yourself. And then we're gonna access to the community. I think it's that the path.
So we are running a little bit out of time, but we want to fit in Sarai's question. Sarai, you've recently begun an event series called The Junk Edit, which you describe as scrapbooking meets journaling. Tell us more about the inception of the series and what you've learned about creating these types of spaces along the way.
So the junk edit really is my baby. It came from me, once again, trying to like escape everything that was going on in my mind, but more so, it happened like right after the elections. So as a form of escape, I ran to social media, and then I realized like, oh, social media is also really heavy right now. Where do I go? And so I started junk journaling. It was something that kept coming up on TikTok. It's a way to journal in a way that releases the pressure. I'm not someone who likes to write about my feelings, but I'm very visual. So I also feel like a lot of us collect a bunch of things for the day that we're gonna scrapbook, and then like we never do, and it lives in a shoebox somewhere around the house. So it became a way to finally like use those things because it didn't have to be perfect. And that was something that really helped me get through a couple of things that I was dealing with at the time. But once I like saw how everyone was on the internet, and I was like, oh, I think we all need to like dilly-dally a little bit. Come join me. And that's kind of how that became. And what I've learned from it is that a lot of us just miss doing things with our hands. A lot of us just miss like just gathering and actually having an in-person conversation. I'm also a caller, not a texter. If you text me, I will not respond. But if you call me, I will be there. If you show up to my event, I will definitely be there. And we could talk all day. But it has definitely been something that I've seen like other people. There's people who like come to like each one because they're like, I can't miss this. Like, this is my dedicated time. Or like they're saving up their junk. And it's just important also to like document your life and your story, because sharing it on Instagram or like curating it isn't enough. Like, it's a place where you actually get to be honest. So like you said, like connecting to yourself first before you like open up to other people.
Yes, absolutely. I'll definitely have to check out that junk journaling workshop. All right, guys.
Once a month.
We don't have time for a Q&A right now, but if you guys stick around, our panelists will probably be here. You can ask them questions, or you can follow them on Instagram and DM them and connect. But to end off this incredible conversation, thank you so much to the panelists. Let's give it up for them. We're actually going to be wrapping up with an amazing poetry performance by Jaisa. And I think that's very special because we were talking about art, and this is an amazing medium. So, yeah.
Okay, the poem it's in Dominican Spanish. I say Dominican Spanish with an intention because, yeah, we like everybody knows, every country. Colombia have their own Spanish, Dominican Republic have their own Spanish, and definitely Dominican Republic have their own Spanish. Oh my God, and I love it, I love it like radically. And I was in Puerto Rico. Two. Oh my God, I'm losing my sense of time. 5 months ago. And during those 5 months, and during this visit to Puerto Rico, everybody was saying mías, or was saying nosotras. And even Mel, even a straight man, was saying nosotras. And it feels so good. And I really recommend to every male, male-presented, alguien que se defina como hombre, que lo haga, doing it, say nosotras. You know, it's really liberated. So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What is happening? Where is this poem? Okay, we have it. Mías is a poem in Dominican Spanish, as I said, and it's talking about how femmes in general are a blessing, power, a force. And I say femmes to talking about the whole rainbow, because everybody who take femme, and I don't say femininity, say femme. Okay? Mías. Se me ha estado olvidando que el false lo jode todo. Al centro de las tierras que queremos caminar se llega cavando a pulso, respirando. Primero eso, en serio. Estar vivas ahora. Las que estamos vivas ahora, mierda mías, las respeto. Nos respeto. Nos respeto en estos días de despertar y saber tanto y entender lo mucho que huele a humo antes de que las calles se prendan en tormentos. Nos respeto por no irnos de boca con este dolor en la garganta, sabiendo que, saliendo como gallaretas a gritar los 1000 nudos que nos llegan así de gratis, porque sí, que solo con eso se resuelve una buena cuota del trauma. Tú estás loco. Comadre, ese palé ningún cuerpo lo aguanta. Tú, que me estás leyendo aquí tranquila, a ti te lo digo, hoy lo hiciste lo mejor que pudiste. Y eso es lo único que esta vida puede esperar de ti. Nos respeto por este instante, nos respeto por nuestra lucha de ser, nos respeto porque sé que la vida se ríe ligera con la muela sagrada cada vez que nos ve la mirada directo al sol, un día más. Nos respeto porque sé desde este silencio que me invita a escribirnos. Esto es admiración concreta. Tiene nombres y todas suenan a inolvidables. Yo nos sueño amoras, a cada una, a cada hora, libres. We deserve it. Nosotros necesitamos entender que we deserve freedom, we deserve this life, and we deserve to wake up tomorrow como hoy. Thank you.
That was absolutely beautiful. Muchas gracias por compartir. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to us chit chat and yap. And I hope that you guys all have something to take home with you from this panel. Thank you.